I'm super passionate about technology and accessibility, and my mission with Carri On Accessibility, or COA, is epic. To explore, promote, improve, and collaborate to make the world more accessible. Blindness, low vision, assistive technology, accessibility settings on iPhones, Androids, voiceover, talkback, accessibility apps, accessible gaming, blind parenting, Braille, and so much more. The reason I started the channel was just wanting to share technology for people who aren't as familiar with tech or don't follow it as closely as I do. I try to do my best to make it so anybody can understand it and follow it, whether they're blind, low vision, sighted, or if they have a lot of experience with tech or not.
Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson. Today in this studio, we have from Carrie On Accessibility, Carrie Morales. Carrie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. It's great to have you on here because I've been watching your YouTube productions. It's really good stuff. It's energetic and I'm enjoying it.
Well, thank you. I try my best and make the best content that I can. And I love technology, and so I'd like to share it with anybody that I can.
Well, there's a lot of it out there. I've been following along, and Be My Eyes, you had the actual new CEO on there. You had the new glasses that Apple says they're going to come out with that'll be available to us. And then you have some shorts and stuff. What can people expect when they go to Carrie On Accessibility on YouTube?
I do anything about assistive technology and accessibility, also about just living when you're blind or visually impaired. And I like mainstream technology, so you'll see a lot of Android phones. I just recently got an Apple Watch and tried that out. I have a lot of different pieces of technology, whether it's a Chromebook, PC, a Samsung S22 or S23. I like to try different things out. And of course, I also have an iPhone 14 Pro Max. And I'd like to share my experience, what it's like using it with talkback or voiceover. And then I also like to insert just what our experience is like when we come to an inaccessible website, or sending messages when you're blind, or anything like that. I think is what you can expect.
Yes, it's great to see that you're also into the Android world. Myself, I'm more into the Mac and the I do have a PC, and I'm into the iPhone. But Android is something that I think more people around the world are actually using.
Yes. If you look at the statistics from a global perspective, yes. But in the US, there's more iPhone users, which is an interesting perspective. I love Android. I like iOS. There are some parts of the operating system and how you use the user interface to VoiceOver and how VoiceOver interacts with Zoom that is challenging for me. Since I am a hybrid user, I like to use magnification with a screen reader at the same time, and I feel more comfortable with that on Android. As well as on Android, you can make things much larger. On iOS, there are accessibility font size settings, and for certain apps, particularly Apple apps like iMessage and the phone app and FaceTime, they adhere to those accessibility font sizes, but on Android, it may not go as large typically, though that is changing, but the whole interface will be much larger. Third-party apps will be larger, and so I find that easier for me to use.
Do you use the Google Lookout app?
Absolutely, all the time.
Can you describe that?
It's very similar to Seeing AI, I would say. It doesn't have a color reader or a light sensor, but the text and the document mode are, I think, very good, and sometimes it can be more accurate than Seeing AI. Also, it has a really cool food labels mode, With Seeing AI, you have to scan a barcode. With the food label mode, you point it at the product, but it has to be a food product, and it can recognize it without the barcode, just from the image. I've used this at Food Lion at my local grocery store, and I can point it at the freezers without opening the freezers and just scan around and see what's inside the freezer or just what's on the shelf.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
It doesn't recognize everything, which I wish that it could do not only groceries and food items. I wish it could do just products in general. That would be incredible. Just imagine walking down Walmart and like just pointing it at everything. But what it can do is pretty cool.
I suppose it gets you, like if you want to get creamer or if you want to get milk or if you want to get frozen something, it gets you in the ballpark.
Yes.
And then you can dig in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
One other new thing with Lookout is similar to the new Be My Eyes virtual volunteer. It'll be able to take an image and you'll be able to ask it questions. And so far, the feature, I'm on the beta, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty helpful.
So you can also dig in on that. Like if I took a picture of something and then it continuously keeps the questions going. I know you just said that, but I'm just processing in my head. Like, oh, wow.
Yep. You can have it describe what's going on in the picture. So if somebody sends you an image and, they didn't really say what it was, you can ask what it is. But then if there's a woman in there...
Any image.
If there's a woman in there, you can say, oh, what is she doing? Is she sitting? Is she standing? What is she wearing? What color is her shirt? Well, how does she have her hair? Are there any other objects in the image? And you can ask about that.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
You can do that with the Be My Eyes app as well, the virtual volunteer.
Yeah, I'm on the beta of that. I didn't know Google was doing that. I knew they were coming up with it, but I didn't know they had reached that, straight from the beta tester herself, right?
Yes.
Speaking about beta testing, you are an accessibility tester as well.
Yes, I currently work with Fable on accessibility testing, user research, things like that. They are the liaison between testers and companies, and whatever clients need, they have the testers test those certain flows or certain apps or certain websites, and we just give our feedback. And it is incredibly fulfilling when, number one, you see that they changed something and made it more accessible, and number two, when you make them think and design with accessibility for the future, and when you hear things like, oh, that's why this accessibility standard exists, or that's why this guideline exists, or that's the whole reason why we need to change it.
Can you help them out by telling them hamburger is spelled MENU instead of menu? I know it's shaped like it looks like a hamburger. It looks like a bun with the meat and then a bun. They label it as hamburger. It's just kind of funny.
Yes, sometimes I do that. I just wish they could just call it a menu, but I guess visually it looks that way, and I don't know what the reasoning is for that.
It's been like that for years, and I just know what it is. But I change it sometimes to menu. But I notice sometimes when you open up the app, when it defaults to the upper left-hand corner, if they have that set up that way, it'll say hamburger. But if I touch it, it says menu. So it something must happen before the other. You know what I mean? So It's like I'm just putzing around and I'm thinking like how they're coding this. Why is that working like that? But I suppose you do that a lot.
Yeah. Right now, I mostly do magnification and feedback for screen magnification users. However, I also do freelancing for other companies, and whoever needs it or requests it, I do accessibility testing on multiple different platforms and screen readers and different AT.
Do you do a lot of high contrast? I know there's an option for contrast. Some people put it on black and white or something.
Yes, I am a dark mode user. I don't always like the high contrast filters because it removes a lot of elements, and as it is now, or as it was a few months ago, the last time I tried it, there are things that it will try to make high contrast, and then what ends up happening is it just turns black on black, or it becomes completely invisible, and it was just too much hassle. I love the idea if they could implement it in a way that would be helpful without missing certain important details. And I simply just use invert color when dark mode isn't available. And I think dark mode is something that companies need to build in natively. And I see dark mode as an accessibility tool instead of a preference. There's a lot of people out there that don't have any disabilities and they might like dark mode better because it's easier, or they just prefer it. They like how it looks. But for me, it's a need that I always advocate for. And I could invert, but that's really inefficient, especially when you're shopping and you're looking at a product and you're zooming in and then you have to read the text. And I struggle a lot with glare, and I'm pretty light sensitive, and all that white backgrounds just hurt my eyes and it's very discomforting. While I could invert, it's just so much easier if it was just dark mode.
Yeah, that's my default, is I go to dark mode all the time. Just because I don't want the burning up into my eyes anymore. The big white, bright.
They don't understand that. They don't understand why dark mode is a big accessibility need. Sometimes they just kind of shrug it off, which is frustrating.
Well, it's great that you're doing that for the community, because your work, your efforts is actually helping thousands of people out there who will be possibly using those apps, those products, or that website and accessibility. So thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah, I do my best, and hopefully together we can shift things to make it more accessible for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of shifting things, let's shift it over to who is Carrie Morales. Let's start with when did you lose some eyesight?
I was born with aniridia syndrome, and it is a hereditary condition. My father has it, and he's totally blind. And my sister, she's also visually impaired like I am. A lot of my aunts and uncles have it as well. So it was something I was born with. And then when I was about 16, or was it around 15 or 16, I developed glaucoma, and I also had cataracts, or have cataracts, and nystagmus, which is the uncontrollable movement of the eye. So I have been legally blind all my life. And as I grew older, my eyes have had some struggles, and I've had to remove my lens on my left eye. So my vision has decreased over the years. And while I originally only used screen magnification, I've kind of shifted over to using a screen reader a lot more often as time goes by.
Yeah, that transition is a long journey.
Yes.
People like to fight, using a cane, and then pretty soon they accept it. That acceptance period, I think that sitting on the fence is, I don't know. I think it slows down the learning curve, because you fight to hang on to something that, I might not ever need that, and pretty soon you wish it would have started earlier or something. So
absolutely,
I see that with Braille. I see that with learning, even turning on a screen reader, or they got it magnified and the spark is hitting their nose on the screen and stuff.
Those are my two biggest regrets: not learning a screen reader early enough, and not learning Braille at a young age and not using it.
Yeah. I have a joke. It's not a joke. It's a reality, really. It's like, I've been telling people, I wish I would have learned Braille when I was younger, when I first lost vision, like my teachers told me I should. And I've been saying that for 10 years. 15 years. Well, I don't want to add it all the way up, but if I would have, at one of those points, if I would have started, I would be so much better today. So I'm guilty of not taking the time to learn it.
Yes. The thing is, my teachers taught me Braille, but didn't expect me to use it, or didn't provide anything in Braille. I wasn't given a Braille display or anything. The only thing I was given was a fading book. So, where the dots, you could barely feel them. And here, practice this. And I'm like, this is too hard. I can't feel the dots. I don't even know. This is like a really boring book for a much younger person. Yeah, and that's all I had. So I think a lot of the time it's what you use and what you need and what you use that will push you forward. And I didn't have that incentive.
I had two girls wrote notes to me and stuck them on my locker when I was going to adjustment to blindness training. And it's like, I want to know what these girls said. So all the way home, or an hour and a half ride, I was just figuring out A, B, C. And then on the way back to school, I would write a little bit back on a note card. That was incentive back then. If anyone wants to learn Braille, I would say find a friend that is using it and have them write you a letter or a little note, something like that, because you get very inquisitive.
Yes, and that's a little bit how I started really using a screen reader. I would have blind friends who use screen readers, and they would get to things much faster than I would while using a magnifier, and they would read things much faster than I would. And I'm just like, well, that's not fair. I want to learn how to do that. And that's how I started.
Going through, K through 12, college, whatever you went to, what was that like?
I mostly used magnification, CCTVs, a lot of extra large papers that would not fit on the desk, extra large books that, today we're going to open to 432, and you have to figure out which book it is because it's in different parts, and you have to go hunting for the correct book, and by the time that I find it and finally open up to that page, we're already done reading. I also had a scribe who would write down what people were writing on the board on a whiteboard. That's particularly for math so that I could see it and I would be able to hold it closer to me. They would always put me in the front row, and it made absolutely no sense to me because even if you put my desk 1 foot away from the chalkboard, I would not be able to see it. So I always wondered, why am I in the front row?
So you were less blinder. It's neat how society sometimes they try.
I guess that was their try. Yeah.
Like at a concert, oh, you're blind. Well, we'll put you in front row.
When I was going to college, my mom bought me a digital camera, and it had a touchscreen on the front, and it was about a 3-inch display or 3.5-inch display on it. And for me, it was amazing. I started taking pictures of the board, and I would ask my professors, obviously, and most of them had no problem with it. And I would be able to take pictures, and then I wouldn't need to take more notes because then I could just look at through my pictures. And that was one thing I used since they didn't really have CCTVs for distance, or the state couldn't provide it, or I can't really remember what the reasoning was, but this was my accommodation.
Oh, wow. What advice would you give to someone who is in a similar situation today?
What advice would I give? Just learn it because you don't know when you'll need it. And even if you've heard that 1,000 times, you should just go and do it. And find some friends who use that thing to give you motivation to actually learn it and to use it. Also, the people that you feel care, and sometimes you feel that people are watching you, and whether they are or not, it doesn't matter. One saying that I heard the other day was, do you want to look like a competent blind person or an incompetent sighted person? And for me, that really changed the way I thought of things. And that's what I would share to other people.
That's great advice, because the reality of that self that you think people are always watching, they're staring at it, and you don't know, there's no proof that they're not or anything like that. But by building your competence, you just glide right through life in a sense. I mean, it's not that easy, but it helps moving forward. You build content for people to gain from. A lot of people don't know what they don't know, so they're probably watching Carri On Accessibility and going, oh, I mean that's your hope, that people are listening, watching, and gaining from it. What are your go-to tools in creating?
Right now I use Filmora, which is not an accessible application at whatsoever. You can try NVDA or JAWS with it, and honestly, when it comes to video editing, I haven't found anything on PC that's both user-friendly and accessible. And for me, a lot of it is magnification, and it takes me quite a long time to edit videos, 5-6 hours for maybe a 10-minute video. And one big help I would say is keyboard shortcuts. If you can learn the keyboard shortcuts, that should really speed you along. There are other people that use things like iMovie and Final Cut Pro for Mac and for iPhone, and I'm much more comfortable on a Windows. I don't currently have a Mac, so I just use what I have temporarily until I can find that application that will be both user-friendly and accessible. For live streaming, I also use StreamYard. It's pretty accessible with a screen reader, actually, and that you can access through a browser, and you can use that to record, whether it's with other people for interviews. But if anybody has any recommendations that is not Reaper or that's not something that's on a Mac, that would be great. I'd love to hear it.
When you mentioned 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 to create something like that, that shows your passion to be a creative. And if that's what it takes, that's what you're doing. So good on you.
Yes, I actually enjoy it. I love the creative process. And yes, it takes me some more time to record the content. But editing, I like making something that had a lot of mistakes in it, because I always have a lot of mistakes, and making it into something palatable for viewers and something that people will learn from. The reason I started the channel was just wanting to share technology for people who aren't as familiar with tech or don't follow it as closely as I do. For example, my sister, she's also visually impaired, and sometimes my videos are talking to her so that she'll maybe start using a certain feature or a certain tool. And I try to do my best to make it so anybody can understand it and follow it, whether they're blind, low vision, sighted, or if they have a lot of experience with tech or not.
Well, you're doing a great job, because I've been following along with your creations. And you and Cindy from Seeing Blind put together C&C Insights, which is a podcast that we put out on blind abilities, and just your conversations. You kind of move away from tech, but you also dabble into it, but you're talking about stuff that comes with the blindness community world and everything like that. I didn't know where it was going to go. And when you guys create that stuff and I'm editing it and listening to it, it's like, oh, wow, I get to listen to it about 3-4 times before it goes out. So it's really good. It's good stuff, and it's the real stuff.
Yes, you can hear all our mistakes and all our stumbles. Let's
try
that again.
Well, we try and get rid of those. We all have that. You know, that's why we're creators, because if we just did it naturally, we'd be on radio, right?
Yeah, maybe that's what I need to do. Like I mentioned to you before, maybe I should just spend 16 years on radio to practice speaking.
It's great. On YouTube, Carri On Accessibility, and all the socials, right?
Yes, so that is Carri On Accessibility on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. For Twitter, it's actually Carri On A11Y, because apparently Twitter
letters
does not like it too long, and it wouldn't fit. Yeah.
We should give him a call. Like, why do they cut it off at, 12? Is 12 the max?
I don't remember what the max is, but it was really annoying. I'm like, every other platform, it's Carri On Accessibility, and this will not let me do that. And I'm sure it's not taken, or it wouldn't have been taken even if they allowed it. It's just frustrating.
Yeah.
But if you just search for Carri On Accessibility on Twitter, you'll find it. And I'm also on Threads now, which is a new Twitter competitor made by Instagram.
And they now have 1/5 the amount of followers as Twitter does. Isn't that something? That's fast.
That really is fast, I guess. There's a lot more Instagram users than Twitter users, isn't there?
Yeah, and that was a sly way of getting us over there, wasn't it? It was like I download it, go get it, and all of a sudden, oh, okay. And I guess that's how my Instagram works. So now I'm over there. But you're already injected into a community in a sense.
Yes. And I also have a Discord server. I love my community, and I don't know everything. I love learning from other people and their perspectives. And there's some people that I meet that they became blind. They used to work in the Air Force, or they used to work on cars. And it gives you a great perspective on how diverse our community is And there's some people more familiar with technology and people that are still learning it. And it's a great place to just chill, vent, and learn. Just have fun.
I tell you, when I started creating for Blind Abilities, broadening my horizon and the vast array of people from all walks of life, it's just, there is no one manual for this training of blindness or anything like that. Everyone seems to have their own little twist to their journeys and little ways of how they became who they are today, even though blindness was a part of their journey. It's just really neat to meet so many different people, and your only common thread may be the blindness part.
Absolutely. And I love it. I love meeting new people and talking to them, seeing what their life was like and how they continue to move on with their journey.
Carrie Morales, thank you so much for coming on to Blind Abilities.
Thank you, Jeff. It was really great.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities, and download the free Blind Abilities app from the App Store and Google Play Store. That's 2 words, Blind Abilities. And if you want to leave some feedback, give us some suggestions, give us a call at 612-367-6093. We'd love to hear from you. I want to thank you for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see through
each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the reality
of blind abilities.